Howdy, 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 my name's Anachi Sasuke. Welcome back to Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. In the last episode, we read, I believe, A Fallen Angel, Rats, Patchwork Crabs, Efficient Wash Basin, and The Gentleman's Lash. And this one we're going to be reading Supercomputer, Blood Spruce, Mnemonic Meme, Summer of 48, and the Maybe There monsters. I keep reading it as the Maybe There's monsters. I keep reading it wrong. Also, it was recommended to me that I check out SCP-1851-EX. I was going to cover it in this episode, but after glimpsing over it, I don't think I'm going to do that. If you want to check it out yourself, you'll pretty quickly see why I'm not going to do that. But I did check it out, and the person who recommended it to me was right. It was a very good example of how wrong the SCP Foundation can be. Now then, let's check out that there supercomputer. It's Euclid and it's blue, die. It is to be contained in the C2 and the HPC Center of the blank University in blank. Floor blank containing 866 is to be permanently sealed off to all but authorized SCP personnel. At least 2 SCP personnel should monitor the diesel backup generators at all times, as a complete power failure could lead to unquantifiable loss of personnel and civilian casualties, unquantifiable loss of equipment, complete loss of acquired experimental data, and then the worst case data expunged. Are we sure this is Euclid? I mean, it's probably Euclid because it's super important but easily contained. Access to the input terminals is allowed only with permission of level 4 staff. At least 2 guards should be stationed in the room of 866 and prevent any individual from entering beyond the input terminals. Unauthorized attempts to access should be logged, but due to the location of containment, extreme measures should be avoided if possible. Description: SCP-866 is a blank series supercomputer constructed in 2000-something. Its anomalous properties were discovered when the system proved capable of running computation jobs with more processors than physically available. Subsequent attempts to determine the reason for this behavior have failed, but have caused blank university employees to disappear. Alright, see Addendum 11A for details. Foundation operatives determined the system has a non-Euclidean geometry in the computation node rack topology, possibly a polydimensional and hypercube structure. This, however, does not account for the reason for the anomalous computations, only for their speed. An attempt to remove 866 from the power supplies resulted in immediate data expunged, resulting in blank displacements and disappearances, including the entire recovery team. See Redacted for additional information. In Site2, containment procedures have been devised. Addendum 1. SCP-866 has been successfully used by Foundation staff for large-scale simulations and computations. At this time, the limit, if any, to 866 computational capacity is not known. Access to the machine can be made remotely by anyone possessing a student or staff account for the blank university system. Addition of a redacted prevents non-Foundation access. Addendum 1.1a. Blank of the university employees have since been discovered. Professor Blank has been found in the building's basement by janitorial staff. Analysis of the remains have shown that his death occurred roughly at the same time as the attempt to remove 866 from the power supply. He was found in redacted room wall. Position of the body suggests Professor Blank was initially alive while in the basement. The words illegible died to a rounding error were written in his own blood. Radar scans of the building's concrete walls are ongoing but have failed to find anything of note. Research assistant Dr. Blank has been found in Lagrangian point L3 through unrelated observation regarding redacted. Addendum 2. An analysis of currently running jobs shows that less than 5% of tasks are the result of Foundation personnel. This value could not be increased through an increase in jobs submitted, suggesting non-linear relation between job size and machine's resources. Attempts to identify the nature of the other jobs has proven so far unsuccessful. Largest observed jobs up to date still running are the TST World 1 to TST World 4 series submitted by AO000002 and taking 20% of the total machine resources each. Further analysis required. That sounds like it's running a couple of matrices. Addendum 3. Log recovered after attempt to remove from power supply failed. Program receives signals SIG-SEG-V segmentation fault. System restart from checkpoint. Restart successful. Loading checkpoint data. Successfully loaded. CRC check in progress. Complete. 889YB data corrupted. Error correction in progress. 456YB data salvaged. Deleting unsalvageable data. Continuing simulation. Yeah, that sure does sound like a Matrix. Investigation of log of Test World 2 program. That's probably what that is. Attempt to profile Test World application failed. Let's see. Attempt to assess resources failed. Attempt to analyze parallel communication succeeded. Attempt to store communication pattern failed due to lack of external storage. Attempt to sample communication succeeded. Attempt to analyze samples complicated by large interdependency between message payloads. Attempt to use supercomputer resources for exponential solution to analyze samples succeeded. Attempt to prove communication hypothesis failed. Insufficient feedback. Request permission to intercept and modify internal application message to test hypothesis. We'll try to change the array index where a city of redacted is stored by one element in the simulation. Permission received. Experiment completed. Analyzing results. Investigation terminated by order or redacted. Experiments disallowed until further notice. Satellites detected a large structure identified as a cube with a volume of 10 to the 12th cubic meters, containing the city of redacted leaving orbit. Investigation revealed a possible rounding error in Dr. Blank's programming. Activity logs have recorded the following output. Test World 1 simulation complete. Test World 2 step that. 3 step this. And 4 step 1 that. Further investigation required. Priority redacted. So that definitely sounds like this supercomputer has a couple of matrices in it. Blood spruce now. Looks pretty. It's Euclid. It's probably terrifying. A wild specimen prior to destruction. Okay. Go away. Forgot about those already. Specimens of SCP-867 are kept in Section E of Biocontainment Site someplace. Regular maintenance on 867 is only to be performed using remote rovers and automated irrigation systems, and personnel entering the containment area for any reason must wear full-body NBC protection with a Kevlar underlayer. Any personnel exiting 867's containment area must undergo a full herbicidal treatment and inspection, and any personnel found with possible puncture marks must be placed under a quarantine for a minimum of 15 days. Experimentation with SCP-867 requires the written consent of at least 2 Level 3 personnel. Description: SCP-867 is a species of coniferous tree visually similar to the Picea pungens or blue spruce, except for its distinctive red coloration and a complete lack of seed cones at any stage in its life. 867's leaves are a hollow structure similar to hypodermic needles, containing a single long thin seed and a tiny gas pocket at the base of the leaf. When a living animal brushes against the leaves, the gas pocket expels and ejects the seed into the skin of the animal using a mechanism similar to that of an auto-injector. The tiny size of the seed, which is coated with a liquid with anesthetic and coagulant properties, renders the injection essentially undetectable. These seeds can lay dormant in the skin of an animal for up to 2 weeks, after which the seeds begin to grow, extending tendrils throughout the host animal's circulatory system. This growth causes excruciating pain within the host animal, can last for up to 24 hours, and invariably ends with the host death. Following host death, the new 867 specimen or specimens will burst from the host body and grow to full maturity within 30 days, consuming the host body in the process. SCP-867 was first discovered in Data Expunged, Colorado, following a bizarre series of disappearances of hikers and park rangers in the area in 1990-something. A Foundation team was dispatched and able to retrieve several young specimens of 867 with acceptable losses. All wild specimens, approximately a blank hundred in number, were destroyed. I'm just going to go ahead and, for the sake of my own brain and also humor, assume it happened in South Park, Colorado, because this sounds like exactly the kind of thing that would happen there if it was real. I mean, it might be real. I don't know. I've never checked. I assume it's not. So, mnemonic meme. Does it mean meme like the idea or meme like internet memes? And it says object class Euclid Nunti. Okay. That's a weird ad for pants. You stop that. 2 disposable dudes infected with 868 are to be maintained in a soundproof humanoid containment cell, supervised by at least 1 armed guard. Personnel wishing to experiment with 868 must submit to an interrogation and background check to confirm their loyalty to the Foundation and its methods. All persons suspected of hosting 868, along with all persons living in a community where an infectee has been located, are to be tested for infection. Any subject found to be a victim of 868 must be treated with AMN 868. Should a population treated with that exhibit a noticeable amount of unusual behavior, a follow-up amnestic should be distributed. Any reports of SCP-868 infection in the general population are to be treated as a breach of secrecy. Personnel spreading 868 intentionally or attempting to access the current carrier without following protocol are to be court-martialed if applicable and stripped of all security clearance otherwise. Description: SCP-868 is a meme that resulted from a memory improvement therapy designed by Prometheus Labs, Inc. Surviving documents indicate that the researchers responsible for creating 868 were unaware of its memetic properties until shortly before the facility was destroyed. The process and materials necessary for administering this treatment have not been recovered, although recovered materials do not indicate that its creation required anomalous items. 868's transfer mechanism is poorly understood. However, it is believed to be transferred via a two-way verbal communication with an infected subject for no less than 30 minutes, with symptoms manifesting between 4 and 9 days after infection. Let's see. Repeated testing has shown that the content, tone, and language of the conversation is irrelevant. It's hypothesized that 868 altered the subject's behavior in a manner that is too subtle to detect with current methods. Stage 1 symptoms typically include a significantly improved short-term memory, with subjects typically being able to clearly remember events and information for 80% longer than they otherwise would, on average. Subjects also report the ability to recall events that happened after initial infection with greater accuracy than they would otherwise. This has been confirmed by testing. The effects of 868 become more pronounced the longer the subject is host to the meme. Stage 2 effects of 868 become apparent roughly 5 weeks after infection. Prior to this, subjects are frequently able to remember with near perfect accuracy any event or information received after contracting 868 and from several days before. However, over the course of between 1 and 5 days, directly proportional to the subject's age, this effect extends to encompass the subject's entire lifespan. 868 poses a significant risk to Foundation interest due to its interaction with subjects that have been affected by amnestics. Testing has shown that hosting 868 for any amount of time is sufficient to prevent amnestics from affecting its memories. In addition, during the second stage of the infection, 868 completely negates the effects of any amnestic administered at any point in the subject's life, potentially allowing the subject to remember sensitive or dangerous information. It says this is held true for all tested methods of inducing amnesia, both natural and man-made, see Addendum 2. Prior to its full containment, 868 caused 5 secrecy breaches, necessitated the termination of redacted individuals to prevent the spread of sensitive information regarding the Foundation, SCP objects, and other classified data. Subsequent cleanup and cover-ups have cost an additional blank dollars. Redacted dollars. Containment breach after its containment have required an additional redacted to contain. Addendum 1. In June 19-something, Doctors Carson and Basak received access to 868 after filing the relevant paperwork. At this point in time, 868 was classified as safe and its containment procedures were minimal. Approximately 6 weeks later, reports from Blank, Bangladesh indicated that residents had become aware of the existence of SCP Blank, which had been recovered from that location 3 years previously. Investigation revealed that the village and some outlying areas had been infected with 868. Because AMN 868 had not been created at this point, it was necessary to neutralize the village under the pretense of a flood. Under interrogation, both personnel admitted to releasing 868. See Incident Report 7 for details, which is not here. Addendum 2. In November 2008, Foundation researchers developed a Class B amnestic AMN 868 that was capable of reversing the effects of 868 and preventing the spread of the infection. Class A and C versions are currently under development. In 70% of cases, AMN 868 will only cause mild side effects, specifically severe headaches, with an estimated 10% of those at risk of developing early onset Alzheimer's disease. And the remaining 30% AMN 868 will function, but will also cause self-destructive tendencies and prolonged antisocial behavior. See Redacted for details. That's a lot of things we should see for details that aren't here. The Summer of 48, which is Euclid. File photo of facility housing 869 taken prior to containment. It's Euclid. The facility housing SCP-869 is to be owned and operated by Supertastic Carnival Promotions, a Foundation front company, and is to remain in operation and open to the public for its intended purposes. It's a little bit on the nose there, guys. I feel like you could have called it something that's not the exact same abbreviation as your actual organization. A secondary service bridge is to be built to replace SCP-869. 869 is to remain closed to park staff and the public. Both ends are to be monitored by Foundation personnel operating as park security officers for the purpose of preventing unauthorized access. All surveys of 869 and the area beyond are to be conducted by Level 1 personnel operating in groups of 3 or more. Survey personnel are to be dressed in clothing appropriate to the late 1940s mainstream American fashion, and are to carry no more than $10 in pre-1948 US currency, as well as period-appropriate identification badges identifying them as local police, FBI agents, or Foundation personnel as necessary to facilitate interaction with park officials. Personnel conducting surveys are not to carry any equipment, technology, or personal effects that were not available to the Foundation in 1948. Personnel are to exit 869 no later than 8 p.m., 1 hour prior to the park's scheduled closing time. Description: SCP-869 is a surface bridge attached to the blank Historic Pleasure Pier, an amusement park located on a pier extending out over the ocean in the U.S. state of Redacted. 869 was built in 2000 blank, concurrent to the construction of the park itself, a recreation of an earlier pleasure pier which existed on the same site from 1940 blank, until it was severely damaged by Hurricane Redacted in 19 blank and subsequently demolished. 869's anomalous properties manifest whenever the park is open for business, and none of the park's attractions have been closed due to inclement weather. When these conditions are met, approximately blank percent of persons crossing 869 from the landward side of the pier, on foot or in a vehicle, will not arrive at the pier and will lose visual contact with land and pier-based observers at approximately the halfway point between the bridge's termini. The area that persons so afflicted arrive at, based on forensic analysis of photographs taken by survey teams, is physically identical to the original pleasure pier constructed on the site as it existed in the summer of 1948. In all surveys conducted since the discovery of 869's properties, interviews with civilians found within the anomaly, and evidence recovered in the form of calendars and newspapers indicate that the date within the anomaly is Saturday, July 24th, 1948, blank years after the original pleasure pier opened for business, so I guess, yeah, whatever. Probably 1942. Local time within the anomaly is consistent with the time of day outside it. Surveys have indicated that events within the anomaly occur consistently in the same manner at the same time as during all previous observations, except when survey team members are directly involved. On no occasion has any survey team spotted any previous survey team within the anomaly. No means of direct communication across 869 has been discovered to date. Radio, cellular phones, satellite, and other wireless transmissions have proven non-functional, and attempts at laying a telephone line across 869 into the anomaly have consistently resulted in the cable-laying team failing to enter the anomaly. In all cases where it has been attempted, crossing back to shore along 869 from the anomaly prior to the close of business for the day, which on 7/24/48 occurred at 9 p.m., has returned the survey team members to the shore successfully. Survey team members exiting the pier within the anomaly by its main entrance have found that the redacted mainland similarity is identical in all discernible ways to the state that it existed in 1948. In all cases where persons originating within the anomaly have been persuaded to cross 869 to the mainland, that individual has not arrived on shore. All personnel remaining within the anomaly after the close of business have been lost. No indication of the presence or ultimate disposition of persons missing within the anomaly has been found on any subsequent survey. SCP-869 came to the Foundation's attention shortly after the opening of the blank Historic Pleasure Pier in 2000-something, and the subsequent disappearance of several park employees while crossing from land to the pier. To date, 15 individuals are known to have become lost within 869, comprising 11 civilians and 4 Foundation personnel. Refer to Document B for a full accounting of surveying actions and dossiers on missing persons. Show Addendum 1. Addendum 1, July 30th, 1948. On Monday, July 26th, an individual identifying himself as Dr. Blank Blank presented himself at Site 11, wearing an otherwise apparently valid identification badge that does not match any individual currently employed by the Foundation, claiming to be a Foundation researcher from Blank Blank of the year 2000-something. During debriefing, Blank claimed that he had become stuck in the present day while investigating an SCP object that does not yet exist at this time, and had reported to the nearest Foundation facility in accordance with protocol. To corroborate his claims, he demonstrated knowledge of a wide variety of Foundation protocols, security procedures, and objects currently in containment. Blank additionally made several claims regarding world events to occur later in the 20th century, and SCP objects not known to the Foundation or not currently in Foundation custody. Dr. Blank was particularly insistent that the Foundation should terminate an 8-year-old boy residing in Dallas who claimed he would assassinate a future President of the United States, and that under no circumstances should a man named Thomas Wortham be recruited by the Foundation as a researcher. Dr. Blank additionally provided an SCP document represented above, which he stated was the containment file for the anomaly responsible for his arriving in this era. Based on Dr. Blank's demonstrated knowledge of Foundation procedures, his behavior during enhanced debriefing, and the nature of several other anomalous artifacts found on and in his person, his claims are presumed to be genuine at this time. The Foundation is currently canvassing the blank area for any indication of the presence of the other missing persons referred to in the above containment document. Dr. Blank has been treated with Class B and C amnestics and transferred to Site-73 for long-term observation pending determination of how to address the issue of other persons temporarily displaced as a result of 869. Let's hide that addendum and show revised containment procedures. August 23rd, 1948. All persons identified as having arrived in the present era as a result of 869 are to be taken into Foundation custody as soon as possible. Subjects are to be debriefed and released into the civilian population after they're undergoing amnestic therapy. Fingerprint records from temporally displaced persons are to be preserved for the purpose of testing to confirm the identity of persons reported missing within 869 after its construction. The names of temporally displaced persons are to be permanently expunged from the record. All foreknowledge of events yet to occur acquired from debriefing is to be made accessible to Level 5 personnel only, and is to be referred to only for the purposes of verifying that subjects are genuine victims of temporal displacement. The Foundation is to take no action, directly or indirectly, based on foreknowledge acquired from persons temporally displaced by 869, either to prevent or to encourage the occurrence of the events described therein. 869's containment document is not to be filed in the central database. Upon the construction of 869 in 2000-something, research personnel are not to be informed of the existence of this document. After 869's containment file is approved and filed in the central database, it is to be checked against the document above after each revision to determine when and if the filed document matches the content of the document above. Okay. And Addendum 23, which is kind of long. On May 28, 2012, Dr. Jacob Andrews failed to return from a survey of 869 by 9 p.m. and was not subsequently seen or heard from. As of that date, the copy of 869's containment document filed in the central database was a word-for-word match for the 869 containment document recovered by the Foundation in 1948. Comparison of Dr. Andrews' fingerprints against those archived following the initial recovery of the 869 document in 1948 suggests a high probability that Dr. Andrews is the unnamed doctor who provided that documentation to the Foundation. Subject 1, as he is referred to in later documents, remained in Foundation custody at Site-73 until he died in 1967 when SCP blank breached containment. Notes were found in Dr. Andrews' office after his disappearance in which he stated that, during his research, he had come to the conclusion that 869 presented a means of time travel from this era to one specific date in the past, and that he had decided to conduct an experiment to determine whether it was possible to use his knowledge of events yet to occur as of 1948 to alter the course of history. It can be assumed that his statements to the Foundation in 1948 regarding Lee Harvey Oswald and former site director Wortham comprised his attempt to make those changes to the course of history. Effective immediately, no personnel conducting surveys within 869 are to leave the pier by any means other than 869 itself. Any proposals for experiments to alter the course of history or pass foreknowledge of post-1948 events to individuals within the anomaly are preemptively denied. Survey personnel are authorized to use lethal force to prevent attempts to violate this directive. It is impossible to determine to what extent Dr. Andrews or other persons lost within 869 have affected the course of history from what it may have been prior to their becoming temporally displaced, or whether any of those persons may still be alive. The Foundation has identified 21 people as having been displaced to 1948 as a result of 869. Given that only 15 people are mentioned in the original document, and only 16 are known to have gone missing, including Dr. Andrews himself, it can be presumed that at least 5 more persons will be temporarily displaced by 869 in the future. Coroner reports from 1948 indicate that 2 adult males who had been killed by gunshot washed up on the shore near Blank in late July of 1948. Bullets found within the remains were consistent with standard rounds used in sidearms issued to Foundation survey teams operating 869. Due to the extent to which the bodies had decayed at the time of discovery and the incompleteness of the medical examiner's reports, it is impossible to determine whether those bodies represent victims of unrelated violence or persons yet to be lost within 869. Okie dokie, and that brings us to the Maybe There monsters. I was about to say that's probably Keter if it's something called the Maybe There monsters. It looks like some sort of bat-rat gator. SCP-870 is to be contained in a sealed chamber measuring 8 by 8 meters. Motion sensors are to be placed in the containment area and movements of 870 are to be monitored at all times. A motion-activated turret is to be placed directly outside the containment area to prevent the escape of 870. One disposable dude suffering from schizophrenia is to observe 870 via camera at all times. SCP-870 is to be provided with 1 cow carcass every 48 hours. Description: SCP-870 is an animal species of undetermined proportions and appearance, which, for unknown reasons, can only be perceived by individuals suffering from schizophrenia. This often results in specimens of 870 being dismissed as hallucinations. Specimens of 870 are omnivorous and seem to eat nearly all kinds of plants and meat, but will typically eat their food in secluded areas. Notably, two people with the ability to perceive 870 will describe its appearance in completely different ways, even when looking at the same specimen. Descriptions have included an alligator with spider legs and 3 eyes, a man made out of smoke, a giant ant with a human face, a hunchbacked child with a parrot's head, a spider with too many legs, and a giant centipede with human arms instead of legs. Specimens of 870 are highly predatory and will typically stalk their prey for months and years without eating. It is unknown how they manage to last this time without succumbing to malnutrition. Eventually, at a seemingly random time when their prey is alone or in a secluded area, 870 will kill and swallow their prey whole. See Interview 1. Interview with what? 870's method of reproduction is currently unknown, but the Journal of Schizophrenic Researcher blank blank speculates that they do not actually require sustenance to survive, and instead repurpose the body of their victim into their young over a large period of time. This theory has not been verified, and the research is underway to test it. The specimen of 870, currently in Foundation custody, frequently attempts to breach containment and has proven hostile to all personnel. Banging noises are audible from 870's containment area at all hours of the day. Research is ongoing to find a way to perceive 870 without being schizophrenic, but this may take a considerable length of time. It is currently believed that there could be dozens, if not hundreds, of 870 in the world. They are a clear and present danger to the public, and steps must be taken to destroy or contain the species. Interview. Interviewed Mr. Somebody. Interviewer Dr. Somebody. On blank blank 2000-something, Mr. Somebody was reported to the police that he had killed a monster at his home in blank blank. Mr. Blank was later found to be schizophrenic, and the Foundation, suspecting 870 involvement, brought him in for interrogation. Hello, Blank. How are you? I'm fine. Who are you? I'm Dr. Blank. I'm just here to verify some details about what you told the police. Sure, I guess. Shoot. What did this monster look like? Can you describe it for me? Are you calling me a liar? It's true. I swear it was there. Please answer the question, Blank. Sorry. It just kind of stressed. Well, it sort of looked like a spider, but with way too many legs. It was just running at me and screeching, and I shot it. Was this the first time you'd seen the monster, Blank? I'm sorry. Answer the question, please. I'd been seeing them everywhere. I'd been following them, seeing what they did. I needed to know they were real, you know? Understandable. Did you see anything important? One of the bastards was hunting this guy. I just saw it outside his house watching him. Me watching him. Have you ever dropped something and then looked at the floor and it's gone? Certainly, why? It's not just gone. This guy, I saw him drop a ruler and that thing, it was under his desk. It just snatched it and ate it whole. Then a few days later, it ate him. Swallowed him whole. Well, thank you, Blank. Miss Blank will see you out. Closing statement. Mr. Blank was dosed with Class A amnestic and subsequently released. Worryingly, Mr. Blank implied that 870 were present in a major population center. Further investigation is ongoing. Addendum 1. I personally don't believe that the schizophrenics are really seeing 870 fully. They can just see it more than us. We don't see it because our brains aren't made to see it. The schizophrenics, their brains are wired up just that tiny bit differently, and they can see it just a tiny bit more. These things have the perfect camouflage, and we are simply unable to see through it. Dr. Blank. Okay, so, we did end up having some sort of animal creature, but I'm not going to say that, oh no, it was another animal episode, because I don't think that's what that was. In any case, that about does it for this episode of Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. In the next episode, we're going to read the self-replacing cake, the tattered farmer, the Russian crystal ball, abyssal fluid, and war criminals. We are very close to finishing the 800s, and then there'll just be the 900s, and then we'll be moving on to stage 2, which is the 1000s. So, if you liked it, a like and a subscribe will be groovy. If you didn't, you need to do either one of those things, and I will see y'all in the next one. Later.